Oh, yes. Okay. I don't, even though, like, now I have the freedom, I don't feel like I need to fix my body. I don't need to go, I have this, I don't have to convince other people that they don't need to fix my body. It's kind of like I've got this tolerance for all people now, and like this kind of.
Do you know what that? You know what that's called, right?
No.
It's called grace. Everybody has grace. Everybody gets to figure it out. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a reason for why they are the way they are. Everybody does.
I don't have to go convince them not to believe the diet. You know, I mean, I don't feel that need to make everybody change their mind like I did. It's just tolerant. I can't even describe it.
Well, don't you?
I'm not as. I'm not as angry. I'm not as. I don't snap. I don't feel, overwhelmed or any of that. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not like you did some self-help step, right? Did we go one step, second step? We're going to follow the steps, and all of a sudden you're going to have grace, and you're going to love everybody, right? Was there an equation that gave you this end result? No, it was really if there's any way I can describe it, is you had to go into your own psyche, your own soul, and do it for your soul. And whatever it took for you to do it for yourself, that's what it's now projecting outward. You now give yourself grace and love and unconditional love, meaning you love yourself in this condition because you're honoring the truth of your learning curve. You don't have to be perfect because you're figuring it out. And don't you agree? People should be given the grace of making mistakes and doing what they think is right and learning from that so that they can figure it out. Yeah, that's what that is. So you're doing it for yourself, and all of a sudden everybody else gets that freedom too, right? Whereas if your safety comes from an outside system, right? And you take that system and you believe it's better than everybody else. So it comes from that fear of inferiority and need for superiority. That's what creates the judgment of others because they're not following your way.
Right.
And not only that, but if you believe in that, you're going to proselytize.
Right.
Sugar-free, exactly. Sugar-free, sugar-free, right?
Well, I was in LA for years and years. And I mean, I remember just, that whole, flour and sugar-free thing and just feeling that those on the outside, we had the answers. It was kind of like we had the answer, and they just didn't know that or something. It was like almost like a better than feeling. But, when you're talking about steps, I went through the 12 steps over and over and over and over and over for years and years and years. And I never got this. Any kind of freedom, any kind of relaxed state, nothing.
Yeah, where it is self-love. And it's not narcissistic, superiority, egotistical love. It's truly accepting the truth of wherever you're at. This is it. Why lie to yourself and hold yourself to some standard that is outside of the realm of what you're capable of?
Yeah.
Right?
I was just thinking when I went to try on remember my failed shopping attempt?
Your failed what?
My failed shopping attempt, and I went
to get close.
And I called you and I said I looked disgusting. Remember that?
That was a pivotal moment. That was the session that I think really shifted things, by the way.
Yeah, oh, God. I felt so, literally disgusted about how I looked, and it was, hatred. Absolute hatred.
Yeah, and
all that just gone.
Yeah, do you remember? That was a week and a half ago. That was the day before Thanksgiving. So it was like 8 days ago. Right, 9 days ago. Yeah. Remember, so many people are like, but I've done this for years. You've been doing this now, living in this state of shame. You see it now. Judgment and shame. Holding yourself to standards that have nothing to do with reality. For over 40 years.
43 years, yeah.
43 years. So you were in you're like 53? So since you were 10.
Yeah.
Did this, a lot of people think, oh, I've been doing it for so many years. There's no way you can heal this after decades, a lifetime of living like this.
Right.
And I always say, no, it doesn't take time. This isn't a time. That's a physicality. That's like a physical problem. This is a soul problem. This is not a body or time problem. This is a perceptions problem. As soon as you change your perceptions, what happens?
Everything shifts. Without your even putting any effort, after once the change occurs,
it is you got it. But in order for you to change your perceptions, don't you agree you have to look at the perception you idolize, right, see it for what it is, and actually let it go and open your mind to something you don't know.
Right.
This is like, right, do you see where this is like an identity crisis? This is no different than leaving a religion. A religion you were indoctrinated to be, you identified by, this is who you are, this is what you believe, these are the standards we live by, this is our doctrine, right? To actually look at it as the cause of the problem would be horrific, right? Who would think your religion, which you think is so beautiful and perfect, is the cause of the problem? Who would question the religion, right? This is no different. You never questioned perfectionism. Perfectionism, really.
I never questioned it. Sin was better, and to be, yeah, exactly.
And you believed it so much that you put perfectionism on a pedestal, right? So there's where things get really nasty, don't you agree? Meaning, if I'm more perfect than you, I'm better than you. Oh, that's the hardest part to get out of. Don't you agree? The actual belief that you're better than others or less than others. That ultimately, I think, is what has to go permanently from your... And do you see that now, that how we've shifted this into you are the same as everybody. We're all on a different learning curve. Everybody's on a curve and you're on the same one for you. That everybody now is no longer better than you or less than you, right? So you hear someone who's got this diet brainwashing, the body image and diet brainwashing, and you can just let them have it. You don't have to be like, you're doing something wrong, you piece of shit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The tolerance that wasn't there before.
Yeah. The hard thing to stomach is when you're going to come across someone who actually thinks they're better than you because of their diet.
Right.
You're going to have to...
And now I don't have to be afraid of that because you can't...
Yes, well, trust me, you're going to see it, and they're going to be like, I'm so much better than you, and I'm so much, like, smarter than you. You're so dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. What you're doing is harmful for people, and you're going to have a moment of, like, I could just kick the shit out of you, but I'm not, because you really are stupid and don't know what you're talking about. And you're going to have karma that I had to go through, right?
Right.
That's the other part that gives it grace, is that you can see yourself in them and go, oh yeah, you poor thing, you're going to have a consequence here soon, and someday you'll figure it out, but that's not my job to tell you, because clearly we're messing with a terror. That's terrorism at work in someone's brain. Right?
It's so sad that there's all these eating disorder therapies and clinics and that I put money into, and they literally I didn't get anywhere, ever. And I never knew anybody that did, and it's just such a shame that they don't know this.
No, and it's tolerated, right? They don't even know,
yes,
and they tolerate it as if this is the way it is.
Yes.
To me, this is...
Really recovered.
No, and to me, this is why I believe the disease model is actually a big problem.
I think so too.
Okay, now that you see this, because they're basically saying this is the top, nothing gets better than this. You're diseased, and that's the most knowledgeable. We're so smart in this disease model. There's nothing smarter than this. We know what this is. You are addicted, and that's the cap.
Yeah.
Do you see why that? It serves a purpose, and that purpose limits progress.
Yes.
I know. And you're saying that with your own experience right now, aren't you? Do you mind if I tell the listener why don't you tell the listener how many addictions you've had? What addictions have you had to deal with?
Well, drugs.
Heroin, right? You've been a heroin addict.
Yes.
You started using hard narcotics. Now. Say that again?
I'm on Suboxone now. It's like an opiate blocker, so I can't, I do that just with the safety guard. But yeah, I dealt with alcoholism, drug addiction. I smoked for years, the nicotine, and the food, trumped everything. It seemed like I was going from one disease to another, and if I was going to let one go, I would pick up another. And I really believed that that matches with the disease thing. They said, of course, that's how it works. Go from one to another.
Yeah, that's how it works, because we really don't know what the hell we're talking about, and we can't help you. So we're just going to blame it on you. Your genetics suck. You're faulty. Yeah,
when you told me that, when I was listening, I don't think it was something you told me, but I heard it on one of your videos about how we're supposed, because of our survival, in order, to live, we need to eat. So God made us with, getting pleasure from food so that we would eat and survive, which is a natural thing and it's a good thing. And over the years, they said, no, you've got an allergy and you can't stop, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah, which is crazy because it feeds into the deprivation that actually causes the problem. So you're stuck in it. You'll never recover. Yeah, the disease model, I think, in historically, I'm saying this now in 2015, but I guarantee you in 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to look back and go, that was a huge disservice to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, because it essentially said, you are only recovered as dumb as I am. Do you hear what I meant? You know what I mean by that. You're only as recovered as how egotistical I am about my knowledge about it, which is limited. So you can't get past how smart I am in my own ego as your counselor. It's the disease model. That's how dumbed down your recovery is. Now, what you and I just went through, would you agree that this is the essence of recovery? Real and true recovery from that crazy train?
100%.
Yeah, what's the likelihood now that you're going to go take heroin and need it?
Okay, I'm still working on that.
But you get what my point is. I mean, hold on a second. You're telling me that you would actually go back into that knowing full well the consequences?
No.
No, you forgot about that part. You forgot about your lesson. Yeah. Why would you do that? What is it? Let's step into reality here. This is where I think there's some brainwashing there for you too. Okay. Really? You're telling me that if it was right here, right now, that you would basically take all of this recovery that you just went through and flush it down the toilet for a narcotic that isn't necessary? Do you really need a narcotic right now?
Right now, I don't feel like I need anything. I'm fine.
Okay. So why would you take this real high, which you've described as, I feel like I'm high as a kite, with nothing?
That's right. That's right.
Why the heck would you rather have this? Okay, would you rather have this real consciousness or limited fake consciousness that has withdrawals?
They're real.
Well, no shit. So if I said, here's some heroin, would you take it?
No.
Okay, so you didn't think through that.
Yeah.
You just said what you were supposed to say.
No, I hope not. I mean, I don't know. I keep thinking of it.
No, I don't know if you knew what I said. Before when I said, here, would you take some heroin? You're like, oh, I'd have to think about that. That right there was conditioned response.
Okay.
How many years were you told that you are powerless?
Oh, probably of the 43 years that I was, I would say, my dad was in AA. When I was 7 years old, and he took me to meetings with him because he had to babysit. And so I got that indoctrination.
Okay, that's why when I heard that, I was like, hold on, that doesn't match reality. That matches brainwashing, indoctrination. Mm-hmm. What your response was brainwashing. Because in reality, honestly, let's go there. You know the power of this, right? I'm going to take you to a place of reality here. I have some heroin for you. You can take it. You realize you do have freedom to take it. You just need to find it. That's not hard.
Right. Right.
And you don't have anybody telling you can't. You don't have some 12-step person fearing you into powerlessness over it. It's a free will choice you can take. Just like you have a free will to go diet and lose some weight, right? Same high, same limited, crazy, tiny little high. Thinness, or which one was more catastrophic in terms of addiction? The addiction to thinness or the addiction to heroin? Which one was worse? No shit. So you've chosen not to do that by choice. You know that, right? Okay, so
yes, exactly.
So here I have some heroin. Is it really something you would want to do, knowing what you know? Because you're highly educated on how it works for you, how it feels. It's not like you forget. Is that something you'd really want to do again with the wisdom you have today?
No, I don't think so. I'm still having trouble with that. I mean, I'm on an opiate blocker, so I can't do it anyway, so that's like my safety net.
Yeah, that's crazy. I honestly think you need to really consider this conversation after we talk. Think about it. Like, honestly, put yourself there as if it's real. You have it in front of you. You can get it anytime you want. And you don't have the safety net. Do you have remember we talked about it's real, it's yours earlier when we were talking about the dieting? Like, I'm not holding you from it. You're the one who's choosing that you would rather not. It comes with all of that baggage. You would rather be fat and love yourself without condition and be free, right? That's a choice you're making. And it's not because you can't handle being thin and you can't handle diets. You can totally handle both. You just don't want to, you don't want it anymore. You're surrendering it. Like, I don't want it.
Right.
So even if you had heroin in front of you and you could take it and it could be hidden and no one would know, just really go into that with this knowledge. Is that truly what you would want to do? Is that something that you would actually want to do?
No.
Say that again?
No.
Is that coming from a true source or a brainwashed source?
I'm trying to really go there now. I mean, I feel so much better now.
Yeah, well, you can think straight now that you're out of that crazy brainwashing of the diet culture. You left it, and all of a sudden you can think straight. So go into that same concept with any narcotic. Any narcotic. Is it worth letting go of this free will?
No, that's not. No, the free will, no.
Isn't that what happens when you take a narcotic? When you take a narcotic like heroin, you don't have free will anymore. It is basically taking your will.
Right. So no.
Yeah. I mean, what on this planet has power over you now? By choice. What has power over you that you have to think about, be aware of, avoid? What in the world has power over you? If you're willing to, give up everything for freedom, what is left? What idol still exists for you to where you're like, I couldn't handle it. Oh my God, I can't handle it.
There isn't one, really.
No, you just basically detached from the body you're in.
I've always heard that, that you're always gonna, have that depth once I guess it's all like you said, the brainwashing. I have the addictive personality.
Yeah, that is such bullshit.
Yeah.
That's a condition. That's a survival condition. Everybody has that. You realize everybody has an addictive personality when it comes to being in fight or flight.
Right.
We're wired to do that. That's not a bad thing. It's not a personality trait. You can see the difference now, right? Now that we're out, do you see and feel the difference? Like, whoa, that isn't my personality. Holy crap.
Yes, I do.
I'm not. I do. Your anxiety levels should be not. You shouldn't have anxiety anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I mean, I'll be sitting in the living room watching TV, and I'll start to feel uneasy. And I mean, I actually can talk about it. I kind of, there's nothing, you don't have to lose weight, or you don't have to change anything. And it's like all good, and then I'm just there again, and I'm back into the freedom.
No, and it's not hard, is it? It's not like you're fighting demons.
No.
It's like as simple as, it's like, do I need to go to the bathroom? No, I could wait. There's no emotion.
Right, that's how, it's like water. You don't wake up thinking, am I going to drink now, or should I wait every 3 hours? Or
no, it's fleeting. You might go, am I thirsty? What do I sounds good? You don't take it serious. It doesn't, it's not life or death. It doesn't mean one thing or the other. There's no meaning attached to it. Okay, that's the difference. There's a big difference. That is, wouldn't you agree that that right there is why you took drugs? That you didn't have that, and drugs gave you that.
Right.
It was superficial. It wasn't real. It was, you don't need it.
It gave the ability to feel like I mean, not pretty, but I mean, I wasn't obsessed with my weight or any of that stuff.
For that moment, you actually gave yourself grace. It was like, heroin was your, like saying, I feel good about myself now. I don't have to meet those standards. I love who I am. But it wasn't real. It was the drugs that made you feel that way. But now, is there any drug involved right now?
No.
And you're the one who's creating it with your own conscious awareness. You are creating it through your consciousness.
This is the first time I've actually questioned. I mean, I believed it about this clear thing, the guy questioned all, but now I'm starting to look into it with other stuff, like you said.
Yeah, well, to me, it's the same thing. You just moved it around and you ended up with a more difficult and horrific addiction to body image. It's far worse than the other substances. That ultimately you would have killed yourself over than heroin. Heroin was easy. Well, do you see? Am I right or wrong? Because you're not the first addict I've worked with.
You're right.
It's like that is easy. You just got to get through withdrawals and you're good. But but it's the going back. It's the dealing with feeling inadequate that you have to deal with. You can transfer it to cigarettes. You can transfer it to porn or sex. You can transfer it to religion. A lot of people do that too. They just stay safe in their zealotry. Have you met someone like that yet? Right? You can transfer this anxiety and feelings, I'm going to die, everybody hates me, I suck, I'm a piece of worthless shit. You can transfer that around all you want. But in the end, when you go into that and you decide, I am at the core of me, I am amazing and wonderful and beautiful, and I am a gift. And everything else goes away, and you honestly give it to yourself. It's within, it is something that is developed within, it's not without or outside of you. What's the need for all of that extrinsic, narcotic bullshit that's not even real?
Yeah, you really don't need it.
Thank you. So in essence, what you might have been thinking when I said, hey, go back to your heroin, you were thinking about how shitty you felt back then and how important it was back then. But you didn't take on today's state and say, well, if I had this feeling back then, I wouldn't. Yes, and most people who get to this place, even if you did, let's just say, smoke some weed, you'd be like, I don't need it. It's just for pleasure. It's not for anything. I don't really need it. It's now just like, it's like having a cookie.
Yeah, before it was about pain relief. In my past, when I did the drugs, it was for pain relief.
Thank you.
And I didn't realize that this whole diet culture, going to be then
pain relief
thing that I was having, I didn't realize that was what was making me so miserable that I was seeking relief from.
Yeah, it's still pain relief.
As soon as I got high, I just needed to lose weight. It was weird.
Thank you. Well, you're getting my so now you are creating. We could actually say, if we looked at your brain scans right now, what do you think it looks like compared to before? You look probably chronically high, but there's nothing there. There's no behavior creating it. There's no drugs creating it. There's nothing associated to it. Your brain just looks naturally high, and it's an organic, natural state.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think I could ever feel it. I think that's what I thought I would feel it when I was 10. It's what I imagine.
Yeah, well, the difference too now is that you're capable of creating it through your thoughts. So it doesn't require you do anything. It doesn't require any extrinsic. So you're sitting there in a moment and there's a backdrop of I feel fat, and you know what? You're going, hold on a second. That's not true. I don't have to believe that. I'm a good person. And what happens to the withdrawal in that second? It goes away. So you actually know how to deal with your brain narcotic action with your own thoughts now. Do you see that? Because essentially we could say in that moment you felt a little bad about yourself, you were having a withdrawal, and then in that moment you talked yourself out and the brain probably got high again just by thinking. Yes. Yeah, I'm very good at it to this point. I've spent 17 years. I'm really good at taking any environment. So I've even, in my head, gone through practice around what would happen if I lost my job? What would happen if I stopped doing this? What would happen if my husband, cheated on me and we got a divorce? What would happen if one of my kids died? Could I handle that? Could I go into my own mind and not cope in a detached way, but cope in a loving way from the inside to where I can resolve it from the inside? Doesn't mean that I'm numb and don't feel. It just means that I give grace to those feelings and I honor them and let them run a course. Makes sense? I don't running away from bad feelings. In fact, I'm actually really good at handling bad feelings. I've gotten very good at it.
So you don't fear the possible.
No, I am not. I have developed a tolerance for shitty feelings. Yes, and that's what you're doing. You are developing a tolerance for these feelings by, first of all it takes is sitting there with them, looking at it, trying to understand it, right? You don't run away from it right away. There's a shitty feeling here. It feels like inadequacy. I feel sad. I feel like I'm losing something. And then you just become aware. You look at it. You try to understand it because it takes grace to have understanding. You don't judge it right away anymore. You used to judge it right away. It sucks. That's bad. And then it would drive even more withdrawal. You see that?
I remember going to psychologists or therapists or counselors. They were always telling me, that you need insight, you need to be aware. I never got past that.
No, well, that's because they didn't know how to. That's a symptom of someone who is not in fight or flight. It's like they didn't make the connection between you're in a severe state of fight or flight and survival based on your beliefs. They never thought, we need to remove her beliefs, remove the idea that perfectionism is worthy of a pedestal. They didn't do any of that with you. No one ever challenged your beliefs. They believe the same shit. So why would they challenge those? Right? And then on the other side of it, go, what if you need, how do you survive if you have nothing? Let's start from the bottom. What if you lost your eyeballs? We had to go through some desensitization, right? Yeah. Some self-guiding here. Correct. Yep, and it's amazing what'll happen when you're like, I'm capable of that. I'm capable of surviving if I got it's just thinking about it. You don't even need to have the experience. The brain in the process of you thinking, but the key is making it real. You remember me saying on multiple occasions, the key for this to work is for you to internalize it as if this is real. Because we can say we're playing the what if game. It's all fake and let's pretend. That's not as powerful, is it?
How did we do that? How did I make it real?
Well, you were devastated by the fact that we had in that time together, you were like, I'm going to go diet. I mean, you had invested this money working with me, and that was the moment you were like, I wish I never paid her. That was a pivotal moment. This is why I say some people have to suffer more to get to the point where they're like, I don't know if I can do this again. Like, can I really stomach going back on a diet, depriving myself, and knowing full well that I'm going to binge my brains out, and I'm binging my brains out in preparation for it? I mean, you get to a low. In the 12-step program where they talk about surrender, you were there. For the first freaking time, you were there. Yeah. And unfortunately, I just had a sense of what to say and where to go, and I don't know where I'm getting that guidance, but I get it and I do it. Some of it comes from how I was guided through it. There's compassion. I was guided through it. I don't know, from the miraculous. It may have been, you can say it was an angel, it was angels, it was out of body, it was whatever you want to call it, but I basically went to that place in my mind And I basically am just saying, here's how it feels. This is where the door is. And it requires you surrender and the suffering. I mean, go into what you're afraid of. I had to position myself over and over and over again. You have to accept permanent obesity. And not just where you're at. Remember, we talked about that. Go into the fear of what you think you're going to be. Fatter.
It was so hard. I mean, it was hard when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't,
but we had to differentiate what the realness of it is and the distorted emotion of what it is, right? Because your distorted emotion is, you said you would rather die. Remember when you were like, I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but I would rather die than be fat.
Yeah.
That was a pivotal moment for us in talking together. Because I think you realize that in reality, though, you wouldn't. That really gave you a like, oh, there's a difference between this distortion of death by fat and reality. So if I have to be fat, would I really? So it was the first time you actually looked at it with your eyes open, breathed it in, is if you had to be fat and you realized that it's not worth dying.
Right, it's not that bad.
No, it's not. It's actually way easier than trying to be thin and stay thin. That's insane.
Gosh, yeah.
That is so, talk about suffering to the greatest degree. It would be easier to have a heroin addiction.
Yeah. I remember I asked you if, I said, it was so foreign to me and so unacceptable. And I remember asking you, am I going to have to learn to love what fatness looks like? Am I going to have to actually learn to, think it's beautiful? Or, remember? Yeah.
And I said, no, that's not what this is. Do you remember me saying that? No.
What?
It's not about that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you told me that, yes.
I said it's about it not being a big deal. It's like background noise. It's like it needs to be something that has no significance. Loving it, that's like saying, that's who I am. That's creating that's like transferring your addiction again.
Yeah.
This is the biggest issue for me in the whole fat shaming environment. And I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, is they think that they have to, being fat has to be worshipped for them to feel better about it. No. That's like being anti. You're basically still there. You're still in the energy of it. You're just on the yin and yang side of it. It's like, no, it shouldn't be significant. If you really, really get it, it's here nor there. So losing weight is here nor there either. Oh my gosh, you should be able to lose weight and you're not going to get high on it. That's real recovery. Right? Do you see that now? It's like, if you really detach from the physicality of the body, then what happens to it actually has no significance in terms of how you identify your worth as a human being. Like, what we're focused on and what we've got you to is your worth comes from that essence of whatever truth has been there since you were born. It's the only thing that's truthful about you. It's what the heroin made you love. You loved that when you were on heroin. It felt good, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's still there. You don't need heroin for it. You just now are clear that, I don't have to prove anything to get access to this. I don't have to win the lottery. I don't have to be the richest. I don't have to have the most education. I don't have to compete with anybody to have access to this. I was born with it. I get it without condition. So do I need heroin to access this? No, and you don't have to have withdrawal, and you don't have to sell your parents' shit, and you don't have to hurt people to get it. You don't need it. You could live on the streets right now. You realize that you're capable of being homeless right now and being happy.
Yes. A lot of the fear of just what was going to happen to me in my situation, because I told you I'm a living caregiver, and all of my stuff, once she passes away, I'm going to lose everything all at once, and suddenly it wasn't that bad.
You'll figure it out.
Scary anymore.
Nope, and not only that, but you have endless opportunity. It's infinite what you can create once you are no longer committed to this. So you can, and there's so much you can do. You can go back to school. We live in the richest freaking country on this planet, and there is so much available to you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you don't.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I thought was happening to me when I was 10.
Okay, so this brings me back to what I was saying around you have developed the ability to get high thinking about it. And under any given circumstance, you could lose your house, you could lose your job, you could be living in a women's shelter, and you actually could, in that moment, go through a degree of acceptance. Doesn't mean that you're complacent. Someone hearing this who is so stuck in all or nothingness would hear me and think I'm crazy shit right now. Right?
I bet they get.
Because they don't know how to do it. And they think that, don't you need goals? How do you become a good person? Right? How do we become a good community? Well, no shit. Right? But the difference is I'm capable of having nothing and making something out of it. What's that tell you?
That it's there within you all the time.
It's real. It's not fake. It's not pretentious. It doesn't come from a state of lacking or fear of inferiority. I'm not afraid of that. I would be, see this, you're going to watch this. I have this huge amount of hair. I would shave my head and I don't give a rip's ass what anybody thinks. Okay? Now, there is a condition. I work for myself. If I had to work, if I had to assimilate into a group, I would do that, but I certainly wouldn't become that. Right? If I had to go back to church, I could do it. And I could do it in a loving, compassionate way without holding people to a standard they're not at. Right? Whereas I can totally do that while I know full well that people ignorantly are judging me and holding me to some tiny standard that they want. I could play the part.
There's a tolerance there.
Yes! I can be pushed down into inferiority and be okay with it because I realize that that's their shit and it's not mine. There's a degree of discernment and there's a boundary between the reality of my awareness and the reality of their awareness. And we're all the same. It's the same awareness. It's like, it's just a different context or view of it. The same awareness. It's like the time-space matrix discussed in the infinites of the universe. You either have, it's like this much or this much. It's the same time, space. It's an awareness. So why should I judge the awareness of theirs that's the same as mine? It's just different in a different context. Right? I am okay. I feel capable that if my child was killed, I am capable of recovery. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I'm not saying it doesn't affect the deep core mammal survival mechanisms. But I at least know I know how to live in that pain. I'm not afraid of pain anymore. Right? Don't you agree what you just had to go through? The pain you had to go through to get what you have required a degree of death. Yeah. I've died before. Psychologically, it is no different than putting a gun to your head and physically doing it. Is it? Is it really different? Nope. Takes the same amount of... It takes the same... remember when I said to you, putting a gun to your head is no different than you being fat. It's the same freaking thing.
Right.
And you went through it.
You said you committed suicide.
It is, and you did it. And now it's funny on the other side. It's silly, isn't it? You look and you go, holy shit. That was an illusion. It was an illusion. It wasn't even real. And it was like, I would have killed myself over that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to repeat this question again. Take where you're at today and what you're aware of today. I have some heroin. Do you really want it? Do you need it? Did you say that because you think I need you to say that? Or is that coming from like, no, really, I don't even want it?
That's coming from a place where I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a different scenario. I'm going to give you a different scenario. You're going to go out and have a beer. Did you ruin anything with that beer?
No.
Tell me how that would affect your relationship with alcohol. Your sobriety. How would that affect your relationship with sobriety?
It wouldn't.
Well, I would agree, because your sobriety is in that you're not using it to escape some sense of pain anymore. You're fixing the pain, and now it just becomes some arbitrary pleasure around like a cookie, a beer, you know, a vodka tonic, sex. You have pleasure all over the place, but the reality of it is that you don't necessarily need it anymore because you feel good with what you have. You could feel good with less because you know how to do it in your own processing. If you can feel good with what we just went through, is there anything to be afraid of at this point? Because you're not afraid to die. So if you're not afraid to die, what do you really need?
I don't need anything.
I know, right? You just have a life. You have a body. And you have infinite possibilities in the time-space matrix.
That's what I was thinking about. I think it was the night before last, about what I started what things gave me pleasure, what things I want to do, what do I want my life to be like now? Because I never really thought about it. I was so, distracted by the need to lose weight. But now it's kind of, I have all these options. I got to really think about what I like, what I don't like.
Yeah. And do you see that for the first time it's coming from within you versus what does society want me to do? How can I prove myself to society?
Right.
That has to be like flipped inside out. Like,
yeah. That's huge.
It is huge. That's because you're recovered. Like, you're not diseased. Do you see that now?
That's so amazing. I mean, just to turn and walk away from that, I'm escaped pretty much. I mean, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm so shocked about. Mm-hmm. I had no idea when I started working with you. I was so nervous about, this is going to be just another, I was afraid to even hope, and, it was just, I have no idea. I know I can't, but I wish I would have found this years ago. But that's okay.
It is what it, right, you had to go through this. You had to go through it. We can say it is what it is, that everything had to be aligned. The stars had to align for you to find my YouTube videos. The stars had to align for you to actually contact me. The stars had to align for you to get through that phase where you wanted to get your money back and leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember at one point I was just going to say, keep the money, I won't talk to you anymore. And then when I'm going to, get enough money to do the HCG, I mean, it was like I was trying to diet. I don't even want to do this anymore. But I'm glad that we were committed so that I can, because I was right on the verge at that point, and I didn't even know it.
How would you, I'm going to ask this question again. What was it that led you to continue to talk to me? Because most people have there's a rough patch where they go through those withdrawals, and they think that I'm the one causing the withdrawals. That's that projection, as if I'm the withdrawal.
Right.
That's no different than someone who's addicted to a narcotic getting angry at the people who caretake.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I knew it was happening, and at that point, it's not my issue. It's like, it's really up to them. It's their will to recover. If they really want to recover, they're going to feel it and know the hard truth. But what was it? What was it that made you comfortable continuing to talk to me?
Well, I already paid you.
Say that again?
I already paid you.
Yeah, so that commitment up front. That's why I do it.
Yeah, it was just, I might as well finish. And I kind of gave up at that point, but then and then I watched a few more of your videos and something switched.
Mm-hmm. Well, you heard other people recover on the other side of it. You heard people say the same exact thing, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. It's so easy." Right?
Yeah.
Would you agree that when you say that's real? This is so easy.
Yes, it is. Nobody ever challenged my beliefs before. I never thought that was the problem. How could I not?
I know, I would agree. Unless you are told that you need to look at your beliefs. Those are what hold your brain in this pattern. The brain is conditioned with this pattern, with those beliefs. If you completely remove those beliefs, what happens to the pattern in your brain? So you have it before and after in terms of what it feels like before and what it feels like after. And it didn't take very much time. It was like 24 hours, right? For you to go from catastrophic, I can't stand this, I loathe this, I hate this, this is the worst thing ever, right? It's disgusting. And trust me, I did call you out on that. I'm like, really disgusting. I mean, I was not the nicest, but it's all in love. It's not like I'm being mean to you. Right? We're two adult women here having a beer, shooting the shit in the cage. You know, and on the other side, this is the hardest part on my side. How do I advertise this? How do you do it? Because can you explain this to anybody? Could you explain where you're at right now in any way?
No, I've tried to.
Feels free, gracious. I described it as levitation. I feel like I'm levitating, and I feel like I love everything. Like there's love everywhere.
Yeah.
I could feel the trees. I could connect with animals. There's just crazy love. And for myself, right? Here's something I know that I'm going off and I'm interrupting you. And I know how rude that is, but I'm going to do it anyway. Are you not so proud of yourself? Not in a pride, pretentious way, but when you look at what you just did.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There was that point where I could have stopped it.
You didn't.
There's a point where I could have stopped and not
totally surrendered it.
Past that. I'm so
You surrendered it. And it feels like death. And it's like, when I describe it, it's like I felt like I was willing to get murdered. Like, I'm done fighting. I'm going to take off my armor. I'm going to strip down. And I'm going to open my hands up. And I'm going to give myself away. That's what you did. That's what it takes. And you don't defend yourself anymore. And you just fall off a cliff.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Falling off a cliff.
And I'm not... So when you look back at that, aren't you so amazed at the power you have?
Yes. Yeah. And there's such resistance to challenging the beliefs, because I remember I didn't want to accept my body because it was unacceptable, and I didn't want to therefore accept it. It was so, there's a rock and a hard place where you're really stuck in that mentality. It's really, God, it's like you're being pulled apart.
Yeah, it feels like you're being pulled apart, and it feels like you're getting killed, and it feels like there's a martyr. Remember when I was like, you're going through the martyr role? Don't you see how that is vital to the process too? You have to go through that stage of being a martyr, because that's where you're not taking responsibility for it. You can blame. You were a martyr with me, right? I took that role as your perpetrator or your persecutor, which I wasn't, but the position is that I'm your persecutor, and you had to let it go. Yeah. And say, if I'm going to recover, I have to do it for me. And I'm not doing it because I'm being forced to. It's because I'm willing. There's this will there. Yeah. It is so humbling. It takes humility. There's that part of it too. The humility this requires is just unbelievable. Another word is faith. Humility and faith, they're the same thing. Two different words, same exact thing.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to say to the listener who is listening to this?
Basically, all you have a choice of is either continue as you've been for all these years, or just actually fall off the cliff, and there's going to be a period where you feel like you're, going down to the ground, so you're going to feel really, pissed and all that, but just keep going and you will get to the other side, because it does happen without, tremendous effort on your part. I mean, the only effort really is in the resistance And
you're getting the 12-step program now from the totally different position, aren't you?
Yes.
Like now you get it. Like you have to surrender and you have to let go. It's harder to hold on than it is to let go. So what you're describing is the let go. It's over. You'll never do it again. So you accept that what makes you feel bad about yourself, you accept that as it is, and then you recontextualize it. Like, really, is this bad? So it kind of removes all those beliefs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing this.